Welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast, where business leaders come to share their advice and journeys to success with existing and emerging leaders of America. Now, here's your host, Dylan Bloyd.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business Leaders of America podcast. Today, I'm joined by J.W. Roth, an entrepreneur, visionary, and true builder of experiences. J.W. is the founder and chairman and CEO of Venu Holding Corporation, a company transforming the landscape of live entertainment by developing luxury, experience-driven venues that blend music, hospitality, and community. From the Ford Amphitheater in Colorado Springs to the Sunset Amphitheaters in Texas and Oklahoma, his mission goes far beyond ticket sales. It's about building a lifestyle movement centered around connection and unforgettable moments. In our conversation, we'll talk about what it takes to scale luxury entertainment across diverse markets, how Venu has formed iconic partnerships with brands like Coca-Cola, Budweiser, and the Aikman Club, just to name a few, and the unique investment opportunities available to those looking to join this movement. JW, welcome to the show.
Thanks a million for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, JW, you've had a unique journey from earning your GED and working in law enforcement and food distribution to leading a publicly traded hospitality and entertainment company. What motivated you to take that leap into entrepreneurship?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur since I think the early years of my life. I've always wanted to be in business.
Yeah.
Law enforcement was a great opportunity for me that I enjoyed every second of. But what it was a bridge, right? When you a lot of times you start off in business. I mean, I did not come from a wealthy family. So, I had to work, and I didn't have a lot of education. And so for me to get into business, it took a while, and I needed to bridge that, right? Somebody had to pay the bills. And so I picked a profession that I loved and that I enjoyed. And that was law enforcement. I started on the Denver Police Department.
Wow.
And I spent several years on the Denver Police Department, and I enjoyed every second of it. But what that was, it was a bridge for me so I could chase bad guys at night and build my business during the day.
Right. No, that's incredible. So I'm really excited to talk about this, because I want to talk, about Venu, of course. Can you take us back to that moment when the idea of Venu first took root?
Yeah. So I've been a music fan my entire life from the time I was a young kid. The difference was, again, didn't grow up in a wealthy family. So going to a concert required climbing a fence, right?
Got it.
Because there just wasn't a lot of money to go around.
Right.
But I have loved live music my entire life. I've collected well over 1,500 signed guitars,
Wow.
3,000 signed albums. Our offices are a museum, honestly.
Yes, right.
But so the passion for music was there from the very beginning. The problem was trying to get in the music business and starting a music company is not an easy thing to do. It's very expensive, and so it took a piece of time to get to the point that I could actually go and build and finance the opportunity that I have today. And so, I went from law enforcement to my food distribution company and my food company. I grew up on a small ranch here in Colorado Springs. And so I was around agriculture and around food and protein development my entire life, and started at a small packing plant investment that led to what is today Roth Premium Foods.
Right.
And then 5 years ago, I sat down with my family and our partners at Roth. And while I'm still the largest shareholder of Roth, I was at a point in my life where I could, poach some key people out of my company there and build Venu. So when you ask, how did you get in the music business? Going to shows my entire life, I just saw opportunity. And really the opportunity was in the venue. Venues are just exchanges, right? It's where fans meet artists and artists meet fans. And they're old and they're in disrepair. I mean, the average amphitheater in America is 41 years old. So I saw the opportunity to come in and be disruptive in the space. And then finally, I got to the point in my life where I could afford to go do that. And I could afford to go then take a risk, which it is, and build a new company in Venu.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, like I mentioned, the green room, I have a couple sisters who live in the Denver area, and they've taken me to the Red Rock Amphitheater, so I've been to one of those, but I haven't been to the Ford Amphitheater, so I'm looking forward to getting out there and getting
Yeah.
to experience
So
that.
Red Rocks is our partner.
Oh, it is.
It's AEG. And so a lot of times, about 50% of the time, what you see at Red Rocks on Friday night, you'll see here at Saturday night or
Wow.
vice versa.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So, Venue isn't just another venue operator, it's a lifestyle brand and a movement. Like,
Yeah.
as much research that I've done, it's just incredible. How did you go about creating an entertainment experience that goes beyond the stage? And what challenges did you face in bringing this vision to life?
Well, I mean, many, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. So when I started this, I didn't start by just building a venue. I started by sitting down with BCA, one of the best architectural firms in the world, the big instrumental in Mercedes-Benz and in the Raider Stadium and all those
Hmm.
stadiums. So I started with them and I said, look, I want you to take what's in my head and put it on paper. Let's
Yeah.
just see what a great venue would look like. And so that's the way it started. We put a great venue on paper. Now, it would never pencil. I mean, it was $100 million.
Right.
And so, but regardless of it penciling, I built it myself, and I built it right here in Colorado Springs. And Ford Motor Company came along and paid the highest naming rights in the history of live music to put their name on it. And but what we did is we created a venue on paper that we then built, and so much of it comes from my life, right? So being a music nut my entire life, I have a strange backyard, not the normal backyard. My backyard has a tiny little venue. It seats 75 to 100 people. And I think it has the world's largest residential fire pit. It has a cool bar. It just has cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so I just took my backyard and I said, how do I create this ambiance for 20,000 people versus just 75?
Yeah.
So I took my backyard, for example, and I squished it down into little tiny fire pit suites. And I built 300 of them in the venue in McKinney and 132 of them in this venue. And you just creates an ambiance that is important to our sort of the style of what we build. And so we don't build your traditional run-of-the-mill amphitheater. We built multi-seasonal, heated floors, infrared heat upside, fire pits, just a lot of things that create an ambiance that doesn't exist today. I think that's important in business. I mean, everybody that is successful in business builds stuff that people want, right? I can't teach you what you want. You want what you want. So being good in business means that I'm not going to try to get you to buy chicken that you've never had before. I'm going to sell you chicken that you like.
Right, right. So I know you talked about your background or your backyard, but what was the real decision behind the amphitheater direction instead of like the enclosed, venues?
I built both.
Okay.
The decision came. My wife had given me I'm a music nut. So
Yeah.
for my birthday about 6 years ago, she gave me a ticket to the wine train out of Napa that goes through and goes to all the wineries, and it ends in Peter Mondavi's front yard. It's
Yeah.
got a small little amphitheater in his front yard. And that night, she arranged for us to go and listen to a bunch of classic rock guys out of Journey and Leonard Skinner and Kansas. And so we went, and I sat there and I loved every second of it. When we got back on the train, I told my wife, when I get home, I'm going to build one of these. So I got home and I built what's today Phil Long Music Hall here in Colorado Springs, super successful indoor venue.
Yeah.
And from there, you just sort of, like everything else in life, right? You start thinking, well, what if I did it this way? Or what if I did that? And so it went from a 1,500 person music hall to now what I'm building in Dallas, Texas is the largest outdoor music, fully seated amphitheater ever built in history. So
Wow.
It sort of, kind of takes that progression, if you will.
Right, right. What's the capacity at the one in Dallas?
20,000 fully seated.
20,000. Wow, that is incredible. I cannot wait to see what that,
Yep.
turns into.
Yep.
So
Here in Colorado Springs, what we built's 10,000.
10,000. Okay. Yeah, that's the one in the Ford Amphitheater.
Ford Amphitheater.
Got it. So what's the secret to, blending high-end hospitality, live music, and community in a way that can scale across, different states, like you mentioned, while still keeping the core values like connection, music, and community at the heart of venues culture?
Well, you just have to be committed to building excellence, right? So regardless of the cost, when I first started by sitting down with BCA, first thing I told them, things. I don't want to talk about money. I want to talk about ambiance. I want to talk about experience. I want to talk about amenities. I want to talk about all of the things that are important: elevated food and beverage, ride share, premium parking, all of the things that I felt were going to be important if you're going to change the way music is experienced. So you have to start that way. And then you have to go figure out how you're going to make it pencil. But if you start the other way, you're going to be a failure in anything you do in life. I think you have to start with, what do the people want? And then I'll figure out how to make it pencil.
Right. You got to have some excitement to start it off, right? I mean, if you're only talking about finances, of course, people are like, yeah, this isn't going to work, right?
Totally. I have to make the best chicken first.
Yeah.
And then I'll figure out, how do I make that chicken affordable?
Right. And how do I distribute it and everything? Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So, Lux Fire Suites have become a signature part of the Venu experience. What role do they play in financing future projects and sustaining that growth?
Well, they're a good 50% of the overall value
50%.
of an amphitheater, and they're about 100% of the construction cost. So, they represent a significant piece of the overall strategy.
Well, that's 100%. That is wild.
100% of the construction cost.
Construction. Yeah. Wow.
50% of the value of the overall project.
Got it. Okay. Wow. That's unbelievable. So you've also partnered with some iconic brands, like Coca-Cola, Budweiser, AEG Presents, but even also Hall of Famer Troy Aikman. I thought that was very interesting. Yeah. How do you go about forming those kind of partnerships, and what do you look for in a brand collaborator?
Well, synergies, right? So synergies are the core to every relationship. It has to work for everybody. And so, Troy is he's a wonderful guy, and he's, what you see is what you get. And when he left his day job as the quarterback of the Cowboys, he started by building 8, right? And 8 it's a great company. I'm a shareholder in 8. It's a competitor to the light beer category. I think it's the number 1 premium beer in the space. And so it was a natural sort of relationship. He was trying to gain recognition of 8. I was trying to gain sort of exposure in the Oklahoma and Texas markets. And so for us to sit down together and come up with a way that I can help him and he can help me, and then over a period of time, we built our relationship. And like any other relationship, at the end of the day, it has to work for everybody, right? And in our particular case, it did exactly that. He helped me do what I needed to do. And in return, he's gaining tremendous exposure by being inside of the amphitheaters. But he's got a great product. He did the same thing we did. We built a product that people love. He did the same thing. He built a product that is first class in every way, and he's a first class guy.
Right. No, it sounds like incredible partnerships that you have going, JW, and congratulations to those. But this is definitely a different model, right? So it's fan owned, it's fan owned and fan founded, right? So how do people invest in this? How do they find that out? How do they work towards, building this opportunity with you and find ways to work with you? Yeah,
so love him or hate him, Elon Musk, who I've admired, I think he's a genius, super smart. Now, sometimes he does things I always sometimes scratch my head and say, what the hell are you doing? But at the same time, super smart. You can't question how he's done things. And what he was able to do is he created a movement, right? And then he blended his customer and his shareholder, and they're sort of the same person in a lot of ways. Very few of his large shareholders don't own a Tesla, right?
Yeah.
Or aren't followers of his other businesses. And so I felt like he sort of created an interesting model that way. And so I wanted to be fan founded. Obviously, I'm a music nut. So that box was easy to check. But then the next box was, how do I open this up so that fans can actually own a piece?
Yeah.
So I took it public on the New York Stock Exchange last year. Today we're publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange under the symbol Venu, VENU. And that allows every fan to participate in the growth and in the future of the business. And so that's why I did what I did, and that's how it works.
No, that's incredible, and it really gives the fans the opportunity to, like you said, have a piece of it, and feel like they're part of something bigger, right?
Totally.
No, that's
Totally.
incredible.
If that would have been available when I was young, I'd have spent $20 buying a $20 share.
Yes. You're right.
Yeah.
No, that's incredible. So it sounds like you have some big events coming up, right? I mean, I think that I just read that Miranda Lambert is taking stage and headlining, I believe, the end of this month.
Miranda Lambert, I don't know. We got Weird Al tonight taking stage. We've got completely sold out Red Clay Strays coming up here. We we just have so many great shows. I can't even think of all of them, but the best place to spend an evening is at the Ford Amphitheater.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah, I think I saw Train and Brantley
Train's
Gilbert
coming.
and
They're
some
all
big,
coming.
huge names. That's incredible.
Yep.
Well, JW, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for spending time with me today and the
Listen,
listeners.
I loved it.
Yeah, how can listeners connect with you, and learn more about Venu and potentially invest in opportunities like we talked about?
Well, the best way to follow us is on our ticker symbol on the New York Stock Exchange, VENU, or to follow us at venue.live. All of those places. You could follow me on Facebook, or you can follow me on Instagram. We have a good social media presence, and I'm working hard on building those platforms to keep people sort of engaged in all of the things that we're doing.
Amazing. Awesome. All right. Well, I'll make sure those are in the show notes as well, make it a little bit easier on the listeners and easily accessible. Yeah. So I do have one more question, JW, before we go, just for the entrepreneurs out there. So for entrepreneurs listening who are trying to build bold ideas to life in traditional industries, what advice would you give them?
There's so much. I would start by developing a product or a service that doesn't exist, and or that you can elevate. That creates a big differential between what exists today and what you have in your mind. It's the greatest piece of barrier to entry, right? And so that's where I would start. I would encourage you to follow your passion, build stuff that you love. It's hard. Building a business is hard. And then the last piece of advice I would give you is never quit on a bad day. Entrepreneurs have a tendency, young entrepreneurs, to throw that white flag in. The reason less than 1% ever get to significance is because they quit or whatever. And so I've always had the rule, never quit on a bad day. And if you have that rule, you will never quit, because nobody quits on a good day.
On a good day.
So if you have a rule, you don't quit on a bad day, and you build your business around passion, and you go into it knowing that, just like baseball, you'll go to the Hall of Fame hitting 350, which means that 35 out of 100 times you win. The rest of the time you lose, and you go back to the dugout and you rethink what you're doing, and then you go back out there. But there's the encouragement I would give you, and go from there.
I love that. Never quit on a bad day. I'm going to quote you on that from many podcasts in the future.
That's awesome.
I love that. Awesome, JW. Well, again, thank you so much for joining today. And, I can't wait to get out and see some of the venues in that area. And
come out and visit your sisters, and we'll go to a show.
Oh, that would be awesome. Yeah. I appreciate that. Awesome, JW.
We'll see you later.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.